International Workplace Group, the world's largest provider of hybrid working solutions, sees stronger momentum for flexible workspaces in Metro Manila, as well as emerging hubs such as Pampanga, Cebu, Davao, and Bohol. With us now for more is Marc Descrozaille, the CEO, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific at IWG. Welcome to Manila, Marc. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kathy.
And congratulations, you've been in the job for a year.
Yes, absolutely.
You must have traveled. It's a huge demographic that you cover. It's the Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. And now here, you're in a sub-region, the ASEAN and the Philippines. How does the Philippines stack up against all the other markets that you watch? And
thank you, Kathy. It's really interesting because Asia in general has been moving quite steady in recent years, and the Philippines has been catching up. So probably some other markets were a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to getting into the flexible spaces. And today I would say that probably this is the fastest growing market here in the Philippines. It took us 20 years to get to 20 centers that we opened in the country, and in the last 2 years we have just doubled the numbers. And we are actually now getting into opening up to 70 centers in the next couple of years.
Is it? I mean, the last time I checked, you started the year with saying you're going to be growing by 50% in the number of centers in the Philippines. Has that grown then?
Yes, correct.
In the last couple of months?
No, absolutely. And I just learned from the team when I landed here yesterday that we had signed another 2. So it means that today we have a pipeline of 30 more centers to open in the next couple of years. And there is more coming as well because we don't stop.
Right, and you're not stopping at a time everybody else is pausing and waiting what goes on with the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and whatever Trump says about the deadline on July 9th with the tariffs. With all that uncertainty, one would think that businesses might also pull back on their capex and also on investing in a workplace or workspace.
What is really interesting as a trend in our industry is that we're moving away from having the conventional type of leases in the various buildings, and all the real estate for offices is really changing completely. And what we are actually working towards is this big trend of people getting into hybrid type of spaces, which means that they will get more options, more alternatives, which are not just in the city centers, but also in the provinces, into secondary markets. And there are many different options that the people can actually get, and they will want to be able to work closer to their homes. They might not want to commute. For instance, here we can see commuting is not very easy. So there are a lot of smaller spaces in different buildings with different opportunities, which is very much what the market wants. And this is this longer trend that we're looking at instead of just the current instability that we can see in the world.
So it's what the market wants, meaning the companies are finding that there is a lot more savings that can be had if they do flexible workspaces? And they're coming here to the Philippines because they're seeking a haven, perhaps?
Well, companies realized that post the pandemic, they were having these large offices with not so many employees anymore. And employees demand that there is flexibility in the way that they're working. It's not a Monday to Friday systematically anymore. And therefore, there was this realization from the CEOs and CFOs that, okay, we need to use this space differently. We need to actually reduce the number of square meters that we're using. We need to be smarter at doing it. And therefore, probably, instead of investing into stacking up our offices, it's actually better maybe to have turnkey solutions already completely made and organized for them, which is very much what we're doing.
Okay, so from the pandemic, it's a worker speaking up and saying, I gotta have better work conditions here, I want a flexible workspace. And now you're seeing that the demand is not only in Metro Manila, but in the regional centers. Where are those growth centers and what's driving them here in the Philippines?
So we have, for instance, signed, and then we have centers in Bohol or in Cebu or in Angeles City and many other different places and provinces and cities. I will not be able to mention all of them because we're already expanding in many. And what is really interesting is we have different brands. So we have not just Regis, which has been the historical brand, but we have, for instance, HQ, which is a more economical type of brand with a different solution, very functional, which could be an amazing opportunity for secondary markets. And we see there is also this demand for, we're talking a lot about the digital nomads, for instance. So you don't always work from one place, and therefore you might be able to work in certain weeks or certain days of the week in other places, which might be whether you also want to spend the weekend at the same time. So you're combining work and leisure, and we're offering options for these people who want to to have these different opportunities.
Interesting as well, the landlords and strategic partnerships that you have, very critical in your business model, come from different sorts. They're groceries, they're maybe even from government agencies. What are you finding are the best partnerships to be had, and in maintaining probably operational costs as costs go up because of all the global uncertainties out there?
What is really interesting is that our model has shifted completely. We used to actually take a lease, and we would be organizing ourselves and taking just the opportunity to do whatever we wanted in the space we had actually leased. And now we found that it was much more interesting to get the landlords to become our partners. And therefore, we are in this together. So the way we are actually now developing and getting this contractual relationship with the landlords is that we are signing together a partnership whereby we are actually managing the space and organizing it. And it's very interesting for us because we invest today a lot into digital distribution channels, the marketing, which we need to do on a global scale. But locally, the people that are the most relevant will be the local people of each of the countries, each of the cities. So we're relying a lot on the partners to actually get the best buildings, the best plots. And sometimes it will be into shopping malls. Sometimes it's going to be into hotels. It can be different type of spaces where we find the opportunity to occupy the space and actually maximize the return for the partners in a better way. And there are different types of partners. So you mentioned some of them. We need to have the same mindset. We need to have the same vision together. And this is usually when it works very well. And for me, the real test is to see that we can sign one center with a partner, and the partner will come to us and say, well, why not we have a second one, a third one, which we have now with many of them. So that's very, very much what we are doing, is these strategic partnerships where we will have multiple centers together with the same partners.
Right, but when you talk about the regional growth areas, there are differing maturity levels, if you will, in infrastructure that you wouldn't get here in Manila or the National Capital Region. So what's the work around there? To be able to deliver the same kind of seamless service as one would find in the NCR and in the regional growth areas?
This is where we need to be creative. Our teams here are being creative, and they are in this discussion with the investors, the landlords, and convince them that there's a different way to utilize their space. And therefore, multipurpose buildings or developments are really interesting because you end up having the people who will be working from our center, but at the same time, they will also have the retail options that can be in the same building. It might also be residential at the same time. And this type of multi-purpose developments we see in many markets here as well. And we have examples where we have actually converted part of a shopping market, shopping center. And all of a sudden, there is a better utilization of some of the space. And therefore, we are quite creative in the type of buildings we're utilizing. It's not just purpose-built office building, not at all. And this has really shifted, and it is quite a new trend, which we're experiencing here, in particular in the provinces.
So better yields for those landlords working with you, signing strategic partnerships.
Absolutely, and managing the risk better, because you have different cycles, and we are typically not working so much with the cycles, and therefore that provides an opportunity for them to get a better yield. Absolutely.
All right, so where do we find you next? You've just mentioned there an expansion of more than 50% growth for the year.
Yes. Well, we will reach 50 centers by the end of this year. And we will be opening in various places, like Bohol, for instance. So yes, that's really coming. And it is definitely a Manila story as well, because we want to continue to expand in Manila and different suburbs and different districts. But it's also very much getting into the provinces, into the different islands and places that we have here in the Philippines.
All right, looking forward to finding one near my neighborhood. Thank you so
much
for joining us.
Thank you, Kathy.
Marc Descrozaille, the CEO, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific at IWG.